Sunday afternoon at Cable News Network's headquarters in Atlanta, as air raid sirens sound in Saudi Arabia.
Ready, Bob. Go. Do it. Go. We were given no warning of this raid at all. It was a complete surprise. Basically, the first warning we might get is if we hear the explosion of the missiles going off.
CNN's correspondent Charles Jaco broadcasts immediately.
Came from Basra in Iraq. Flight time for that might be 5-6 minutes. If these were actually launched, we probably got about 2 minutes or less before impact.
An hour later, the Pentagon says the missiles have been shot down. This is CNN's ongoing drama, War, the live television event.
Our experience is not doing half-hour, pre-produced, pre-taped broadcast. Our experience is doing live, and more live, and more live.
We have to go to Baghdad, Secretary. We're going to Bernard Shaw in Baghdad.
This is, something is happening outside. Peter Arnett, join me here. Let's describe to our viewers what we're seeing. The skies over Baghdad have been illuminated.
War has never been covered like this.
Let me see if I can hear Larry Register, who is now microphoned and gas masked. Larry, can you hear me?
Yes, Reed, I hear you.
This isn't soap opera. This isn't some silly little piece of theater. This is real. This is life. It is true drama in the bleakest and scariest form of it. This is real, and we're telling you about it to the best of our ability. We'll show it when we can, but just because we can't show it, we're not going to throw up our hands and walk away from the story. We're going to do our best to bring it, and if it takes words to say that over an open microphone from Baghdad, then that is what CNN should be all about.
Whoa! Holy cow. That was a large airburst that we saw. It was filling the sky. And I think, John, that airburst took out the telecommunications. Yeah. Now you may hear the bombs now.
What began with Behind the Lines in Baghdad is being transmitted in more than 100 countries. For those with a satellite dish, the only places it's not available are the Arctic, Greenland, and parts of Siberia.
From the statement from the Saudi briefing.
When CNN began 10 years ago, it was dismissed by the journalistic establishment as amateurish and derided as chicken noodle news. If not noodled, the rest of the journalistic community is now being needled.
The best reporting that I've seen on what transpired in Baghdad was on CNN.
And CNN itself became part of the story.
How does CNN manage to stay on the air during all this? Are you connected through Iraqi television, and therefore we believe it is still up and operating? Bernie Shaw?
I'm just thinking about whether I want to candidly answer your question.
All right.
Tom, let me take a pass on your question, and the next time I see you, I'll explain profusely.
People turn to CNN first because they now have a sense that it will be there when the story breaks. For understanding, for insight, for context, they may have to go someplace else. They may have to watch ABC or the BBC or read the Sunday Times. But when it breaks, that's where you can turn now. And that's a useful service.
The Iraqis will only let us do reports on the Iraqi schedule, so we don't quite know exactly when to expect the next report, and they will not let us report at all when the bombs are falling on Baghdad, and so that makes it a kind of catch-as-catch-can situation.
Officials in Baghdad have once again permitted CNN to broadcast from the Iraqi capital. CNN's Peter Arnett filed this report earlier today. We should point out that it was cleared by Iraqi censors.
It's good to be back in touch with you again from here in Baghdad. It's been a quiet afternoon in the skies over the Iraqi capital. The Gulf War, of course, is going
This weekend, when Peter Arnett became the only Western voice allowed to remain in Baghdad, many other news organizations cried backsheesh. They suggested a coziness between Atlanta and Baghdad.
That he has been given permission to remain may have ominous overtones to some. That he is simply there to parrot what the Iraqis tell him to parrot. Well, first off, Those who think that don't know Peter Arnett. He didn't win a Pulitzer in Vietnam, one of the most prestigious journalism awards in America, for being a fool.
And I'm sorry that there are some people out there who would say that perhaps CNN has done something wrong or unethical to deserve the treatment we've gotten in Iraq, which I would acknowledge. You know, people have said, well, CNN is getting special treatment in Iraq. Well, I say damn right. We deserve it. We earned it. We fought for it, and we'll keep it.
CNN's presence in Baghdad isn't surprising. It's the payoff for what they do globally and for developing a new form of television, teleplomacy.
Kuwait must be liberated by people of Kuwait. Kuwait is for Kuwaitians, and our brothers in Baghdad must leave Kuwaitian people to decide its determination.
Mr. Ambassador, you are being viewed right now all over the world. You are being viewed in Washington. Do you have a message for President Bush?
Peace and negotiation. Stop aggression and please try genuine negotiation.
I also want to say how outraged I am by Iraq's latest act of aggression, in this case against Israel. Once again, we see that no neighbor of Iraq is safe.
We are understanding, I must say, of the dilemmas, the difficulties that the United States shoulders as the leader of this coalition. We're not at all insensitive to it, but we're also impressed by the fact that the United States, as presented so eloquently and powerfully by President Bush just now, also understands Israel's predicament of having to defend its citizens against such blatant act of what he calls outright terrorism, and correctly.
Heads of government are speaking now directly to heads of government and to the public, of course, of both nations. This makes a major difference in how we can conduct our diplomatic business back and forth. Things are no longer can be done in secret if this is the communications channel to be used. I can't believe that this is going to continue in quite that form. I think this kind of burst upon the world, thanks to CNN's capabilities, which nobody quite appreciated until the crisis began. I think that now these governments will begin to draw back and say, wait a minute, what have we gotten ourselves into here? What has been wrought? We'd better go back to the drawing board and maybe get back to some fundamentals of secret diplomacy.
Back at the front, it's difficult to exhibit the cool skills of a diplomat when there may be missiles on the way. But when Charles Jaco flinches in Saudi Arabia, the reaction is felt around the world. It's human, but it's this unfiltered style which provokes some to criticize CNN. It's immediacy without understanding, drama without information.
Sort of burning. We just heard a little funk just then, but I have to apologize for that. I thought I whiffed something and felt momentarily dizzy. You're more experienced military affairs than I am, but it might have been a little gas from the rocket exhaust. Well, it wasn't anything. A lot of people have the respirators on just in case.
And again, you run to get down here. You, in my case, jumped out of bed hearing the air raid warning go on. You run down 3 flights of stairs to get out of here. It's probably 100 yards. You hyperventilate a little bit, and you're nervous.
The networks go on when something happens. CNN has to be on when nothing happens. There was you guys just came in here. There was a false alarm in Israel tonight as we do this interview. We didn't go on with it. But if we're CNN, we got to report that as soon as we get it.
That's good television, quote unquote. And the television lives for those moments. Even if they turn out to be false alarms, there's a little bit of cinema verite, something real was going on.
But what's good for television isn't always good for the military.
How much warning do you have? Any idea, any estimate?
I think that's probably a question that I shouldn't answer, only because we're being told by Saudi people that they do not want us to divulge a lot of different kinds of information, one being They don't want us to tell from the time that we hear the siren until the time that we see bombs coming, because that might give the Iraqis a chance to figure out, well, now we need to move a little closer, we need to move a little further back, or move in closer to decrease warning time to keep it different. So I guess I'd rather not answer that question.
A live broadcast from Tel Aviv that comes to the U.S. via satellite and is sent back out via satellite and can be seen in downtown Baghdad, theoretically, actually, by Saddam Hussein, is something new for the world. It doesn't change the need for that story to be honest and fair, and balanced, accurate. It is that the story is going to be seen by the enemy at wartime. That's new, live.
From a military standpoint, I can certainly understand censorship at the source. To tell the enemy that their Scud missile has been blown up by our anti-missiles, and where, at what point along the route it was blown up, we can see it, to tell them where they land, to tell them as the combat continues that here a battle is taking place and here's where our troops are moving, to have them see it on the screen, it's ridiculous.
In the first few days of the war, CNN's success story paralleled that of the Allied air forces. It was a story of delivery systems, computers, satellites, and vast amounts of money. CNN has 1,700 employees. It has 15 permanent worldwide bureaus and created an extra 5 to cover the Gulf War. This month's bill will be £4 million. But now, the story is way beyond the Air Force General's greatest hits.
I think our leaders and our people have wrongly attacked the peaceful people of Iraq.
We'll be putting pictures on the air that are not clean planes taking off and landing, and clean pilots getting on and off the planes, and boats out on the water. I mean, you look at it, and it's all so sanitary. It's all so glistening and clean silver metal, and soldiers without their hair mussed up because they're airmen and nice, neat uniforms on. You haven't seen the grunt yet who's been out there and has been shot at and has been shooting and is crawling back to get to safety. Those pictures will change, and they'll also change the mood of the world.
We had a situation in Vietnam when it was not live, when there were 24, 36 to 48 hour delays in getting the film back, but where we were getting pretty bloody combat on the air night after night after night. And a lot of people were complaining that they didn't want that with their dinner hour, that the evening news shouldn't be showing that sort of thing. I feel they ought to have had it at breakfast and at lunch and at dinner and just before they went to bed at night. If we are capable of voting our boys into combat, and our women today into combat around the world, then we have a responsibility to share their experiences in combat.
CNN can grant an old war correspondent his wish. 24 hours a day if necessary, live whenever possible. The Gulf War has confirmed a new age in television.
We as an entity are not going to disappear. The technology will not be disinvented. There will be someday more CNN. There will not be less. There's going to be more of this, not less of this. The volume will grow. The pace will increase. And the politicians and the statesmen and those who lead various portions of our society are going to have to learn to cope with it, because none of it is going to go away. The pressures are not going to simply vaporize something. The tension is not going to disappear.